Hello all and welcome to the Business Continues virtual podcast. My name is Connor Slasberg and today we're hoping to put the doom and gloom away and focus on some of the positives in our lives and businesses. On this week's roundtable, I am joined by Jamie, Laura, Bill and Nina. Thank you all for joining me. This week is a Charities Special. But before we start, it would be great to get to hear a little from each of you about who you are, what you do, and in an old networking cliche, let's get to know you a bit better by telling us the favourite series that you've binge watched during lockdown. So, Jamie, would you like to start off?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie at Willen Hospice in Milton Keynes. So we provide specialist care to people with terminal illnesses and at the end of life and support loved ones, so family and friends, and we do that in the community and in the hospice. And in terms of Netflix series, I've just started Ozark over the weekend, but before that I was binging a lot of the I'm a big fan of the Fly on the Wall documentaries, so a load of the sports teams. So yeah, I've been binging a lot of those.
Yeah, I watched the Sunderland one the other day and it was pure comedy. It was they're great and I like those.
Very dramatic.
Laura, if you'd like to go next.
Hello, I'm Laura Graham and I'm with Age UK Northamptonshire. We support 15,000 older people across Northants every year. So we do everything that we can to keep people well and active and independent. So we support them with all sorts of things from day centres, social groups, domestic care, even things as glamorous as toenail cutting. So literally anything you can think of. And the series, excitingly, that I've been binge watching is Mad Men. Now, this is the fourth time round that I've watched Mad Men, and it just gets better every time. So, yeah, and also Tiger King.
Yes, yeah, the old Carol Baskin. I've not watched either yet.
You must watch Mad Men. Oh my God, I think you'd love it.
At the weekend, I was sat there trying to pick a series to watch, and I did look at Mad Men, but I know the ending of it, so I didn't know whether that would.
No, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. It'd be right up your street.
Cool. I will give that a little look. Bill, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bill Boorman. I'm a volunteer with Blank Canvas Project 1615. We deliver meals.
Oh, Bill, you lagged out for a second there. Sorry, if you wanted to. We got to hear you say you deliver meals, and that was as far as we heard. Oh, we've lost Bill. Drama.
Because it really is it's either getting supplies or cooking or delivering, and we have been doing breakfast and dinner. So last 6 weeks have been a bit of a different time for me, but no TV.
No TV. Understood.
Yeah.
We lost you a bit there during that, Bill, but we'll give you the opportunity to fill in the gaps in just a moment. And then Nina, if you wanted to give yourself a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Nina. I'm the corporate partnership fundraiser over at Cynthia Spencer in Northampton. So similar to Jamie, the hospice provides palliative care for patients that have been given the diagnosis of a life-limiting condition. So we've got the inpatient side of things there as well. We also have the hospice at home team, so they're able to look after patients within the community who want to sort of die within their own homes. We have an education team that provide training, so palliative care training as well. And we've also got the Wellbeing Centre, which is a big part of what the hospice does in terms of accessing, allowing patients to access those services where they've been given those, that diagnosis, but they're still able to be sort of independent as well. And similar to Jamie as well, a lot of the work that we do is with people's families in terms of psychological support, spiritual support, that sort of thing. So it's very sort of far stretched in terms of what we do. With regards to Netflix, I'm so bad with the TV. I'm like not a typical nearly 30-year-old. So I've been watching, or my favourite thing I've watched so far was the quiz that was about how they cheated or potentially cheated on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yes.
Apart from that, I've been listening to my Alexa quite a lot. My music's been getting me through, to be quite honest. So I'm not very good with Netflix, sorry. But yeah, the quiz, I recommend that. And I've been catching up on Our Girl as well on BBC iPlayer. So yeah, they're my two things.
There is no right or wrong when it comes to entertainment. You enjoy what you enjoy, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm Connor Slasberg. I work for ACS Office Solutions. What have I been watching on Netflix? I've not long finished rewatching Breaking Bad. And to me, that is the best show ever. If you've not watched it, you need to watch it, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I've recently been watching. Thank you for the brief introduction, guys. We'll jump into the topic, and as mentioned earlier, this one's a bit different as it's a charities special. So whilst the business world has slowed down in areas, the hard work of charities has not. With increased workloads and need to fundraise in a challenging economic climate, today we speak to some local charities and good causes about the fantastic work they do and how we as businesses and individuals can support them. So without further ado, the one I want to start off with is yourself, Laura. And one thing I would say, I've had a chat with you about this in brief not long ago, about the isolation of the elderly. I'm now coming up to a couple of months sat in my flat, and I'm lucky to have the medium of Xbox and this and all of the technology that allows me to keep up as constant a communication as possible. And even I'm finding that a challenge. So when it comes to the elderly, seeing even more isolation from what they might have done previously, how has that been for Age UK to manage and try and support in recent weeks?
Yeah, so I think one of the perhaps positive things about the pandemic is that people have a glimpse into the lives of older people. This kind of not speaking to somebody for a month is normal for a lot of older people, and a lot of older people in Northamptonshire. So we see it, and we know that there are our clients that only speak to us, or for example, if they go to our day centres, that's the only interaction that they'll have with somebody. So this is nothing new for us, and actually it's something that we're kind of already ramped up to support with. So the difference is now, for example, that the older people who used to come and visit us in our charity shops or go to our day centres or some of our social groups can't do that anymore. So instead, we've had to change the services that we're providing. In fact, we've pretty much suspended everything that we were doing pre-COVID. And now we're focusing much more on telephone befriending. So that's huge, obviously, now. And emergency deliveries. So we're delivering essential food items, shopping, prescriptions, and hot meals across the county. It's a strange way to work now, because everything that we used to do, in people's homes. So everything from collaborative care teams who are much like social services and would go in and do assessments and make recommendations about what needed to happen in the home. Yeah. We can't really do that anymore. So instead, we are having to focus on making sure that people have the most vulnerable people have everything that they need day to day. And a lot of that is focusing on food and medication, because if people can't get out and they can't get their meds, then, there's a risk then that they're having to have unplanned hospital admissions or go in to see the GPs, and that just puts everyone at risk. So we've completely changed the way that we've had to work, and we see this actually being quite a longer term thing. So even when lockdown is lifted, there is a chance that our day centres will remain closed, because we know that people aren't going to be able to just go back to normal straight away. So it's an interesting one, but also I really think that because people are having this insight into what loneliness is, they're being forced to stay in their homes. Perhaps, a lot of people in our generation, the modern world, live alone anyway. They're experiencing something that they've never experienced before. And hopefully it will open people's eyes and encourage them to support older people who face this all year round. So,
It's and as I say, so the point I touched on a minute ago, and you've mentioned in there, that weekly visit to the shop or to go and see their friends, I'd imagine is a massive thing. And when you take that away, have you been able to try and implement anything like we're seeing in the rest of society, so like the pub quizzes and the Zoom calls, or is that not really achievable with it might be a slightly more technologically challenging conversation to have?
So we support anyone over the age of 50, but generally our client base are in their 70s, 80s and 90s. And that can mean, and that's not across the board, but it can mean that people are digitally excluded because they don't necessarily have the internet. Although a lot of people, and I have had clients in their 80s who sit there with their iPads and Skype call their nephews and nieces in Australia. So but what we have done is, so for example, one of our activities coordinators coordinators, Jason, he's taken his chair exercising online. So now he does it via YouTube. And so people can follow along and do the chair exercises. So, you know, there is that kind of element to it, but it does make it a lot more difficult, because what older people want is face-to-face meaningful connection. You know, they don't want to sit in front of a screen because they could sit in front of the telly. So we are finding that really difficult. But when we are delivering, and obviously we're delivering food in a very safe way with all the PPE and keeping social distancing, but we are sort of stopping, you know, at the gate and trying to have a chat with somebody, you know, from their doorstep, just so that they have a little bit of conversation, because it's just, I mean, we're all learning it. I think we've all realised how important face-to-face communication is, and as much as all this Zoom and technology is fantastic, there's nothing better than seeing somebody and having a real life connection. So yeah, it's difficult, but we're managing it.
I was lucky enough to be able to get an iPad to my grandparents before this all properly started, and trying to teach them how to press the green button to start a FaceTime was just, oh God, that was a real challenge. So, but no, that's brilliant. And on to yourself, Bill. So I should add as well. So I've never spoke to Bill before today, and Bill was introduced to me by another former Roundtable guest, Sean of Hireful. So Bill, I'm in brief aware of what you do at 1516, and but if you want to give us more of an explanation, that would be great.
Yeah. So. I guess there's a difference between what we normally do and what we're having to do now. Yeah. But normally we're a charity that delivers breakfast to people where they sleep, to rough sleepers where they sleep. And we go out 7 days a week and do that. That's primarily done by the founder of the charity, Stan Robertson, is kind of the driving force behind it all. What we're doing now, because all of the soup kitchens have had to close and all the traditional ways of feeding rough sleepers, is to do breakfast, lunch and dinner. I previously had breakfast and dinners. I've got dinners now, but we are sourcing, preparing and delivering food. Before the lockdown, it went up to about 90. Post lockdown, currently where there's 95 rough sleepers are housed in hotels through the outreach team. We're delivering somewhere in the region of about 40 meals, and each of those have to be delivered individually to sites which are not always the most accessible. So it's cooking, preparation and going out and actually delivering and sourcing food at the moment's a bit challenging, plus all the other stuff that goes with it, like you get day-to-day emergencies you have to deal with, like sleeping bags, tents, roll mats, everything really that anyone who's rough sleeping needs to survive, plus dealing with the council over with outreach, keeping them informed about where people are and what's going on and any safeguarding issues, and fundraising at the same time, because we are a hand to mouth charity.
It's and I was reading an article the other day about how obviously the COVID crisis has afflicted homeless people, and I suppose one of the areas you don't consider is for some homeless people who get their money through doing that kind of stuff as well. They've lost their people walking.
They've lost everything. You know,
yeah.
What you've got to look at in terms of impact is a number of things. So you've got a lot of people accessing service right now who never have. Some of them have lived in encampments in Northampton in different areas for 3-4 years, and never had to access any charity previously. Either they've been working cash in different places, you've got the spare change, there's plenty of visible donations from people who sit outside shops or food or takeaways. So numbers have been reasonably small in terms of delivery historically, and almost within about a week we witnessed all of that cut off, and now we're at a point where there's people coming forward who are rough sleeping that we haven't known about, who've been here 3-4 years self-existing.
And you by all extent are their support network in a time like this, aren't you? So it's not just the food, you're their communication and
we do a lot of communication, particularly over the outreach team and running the hotels. So it's who could go into the hotels, but there's lots of other issues around mental health, medication, safeguarding, lots of different challenging issues that we've had to learn about on the fly, really.
Yeah, and this is a side to you do this on the side of your day-to-day, don't you? If I'm right,
Yeah, well, I have my business and I have my clients that I support, but a lot of my business, a lot of what I would be doing at this time of year is I speak at conferences globally.
Yeah,
it is a big part of what I do, and obviously I'm not doing any of that. So this is really pretty much 100% a lie. 10% is looking after the customers that I have, and 90% is this is life for a period, but it is only for a period of time. So you know, it's for now.
Yeah.
And getting this done, and then things will go back to normal. But right now it is a day to day, because if we don't feed them, they're not going to have access to food, and that does become pretty critical.
No, that's amazing work, and no, thank you for that, Bill. And then, so Nina, obviously I've done quite a bit of networking with you in recent weeks, and you've told us a fair bit about Cynthia Spencer. But for those that don't know, tell us more.
Yeah, so in terms of, as I just introduced briefly, in terms of what the charity does, so yeah, we look after patients that have been given, like I say, a diagnosis of a life-limiting condition, but you know, at the moment it's exceptionally hard in the sense that, a bit like, you know, hospitals and that type of thing, it's a lot more restrictive in terms of visits and things like that. So, you know, the nurses and the doctors are coming up with great ways at the moment where patients are able to have, you know, pictures of family and photo boards and things like that. So I think essentially, obviously from the fundraising team at the moment, we are there, but we're in a very different position to what the doctors and nurses are in currently. Obviously on the front line, you know, protecting themselves, protecting the patient. And Jamie, I know you're probably nodding your head as well, a similar type of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy at the moment. And like I say, from the support that families get given in terms of, it's not only the patient, but it's about how, you know, sons, daughters, whoever it might be, grandchildren, children, whoever it is, where there is a loved one in the hospice. I think, you know, they're doing, the nursing staff, the doctors are going above and beyond at the moment to try to do even more than they would normally, in the sense that as well, where from a fundraising point of view, we may be able to provide things to the patient. So when we've had, you know, birthday celebrations, we've had blessings, we've had all these kinds of things. Well, obviously that's all come to a stop at the moment because we're not able to go and access the hospice. So yeah, the staff down there at the moment are not only obviously looking after the patients, but they're sort of going above and beyond in their daily roles as well. So it's great that we're hearing about all the work that they're doing. It's just a shame obviously that we can't get in there and do some of the things that we normally do at the moment as well. So
And so I would not claim to be well read up on the charities funding that's coming from the government in all of this situation. But as I said in the introduction, and this applies to everyone, your workload hasn't reduced. The need to raise money hasn't reduced. You've still got those same targets, but there is far less resource out there to go and find that money, isn't there? And I'd imagine as a fundraising expert, I suppose, in your area, that's a challenge. That's a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I say, I've been with the charity since July, so not even a year yet, and it's changed. You know, the few months I was building up to having a lot of exciting challenges and things coming up. Like the Franklin's £50 challenge was due to start this month, and that was sort of targeted to bring in over £20,000 to the charity. You know, the golf days in October, hopefully, please, fingers crossed, that's still going to go ahead. But yeah, I mean, obviously you've heard a lot on the news about hospices and charities and how, you know, we've been greatly affected by this, how everyone has. And to be quite honest with you, the position that we're in at the moment is that because the charity is part NHS funded, we're in a very different position to other charities. So some of them that are able to access funding because they're not part NHS funded, at the moment, us along with other charities, we are not able to access some of that funding because of the NHS link that we do have. So I know there's lots of discussions going on at the moment from higher up about, you know, approaching the government about these sorts of things and saying, yes, obviously we are linked to the NHS, but we still provide a lot of the money that obviously does does come into that essentially. So yeah, that's a conversation that's ongoing at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't really comment too much on that. I don't know the ins and outs. Like I say, that's been ongoing this week and I haven't got any update, but I do know that yeah, at the moment we're not entitled to any of that government funding. But like you say, keeping it positive and all that, there's lots of things that we have been really successful with in terms of virtual events that we've been running. So we did like a lockdown like live lounge type thing at the weekend, and that raised over £1,000. That was on our Facebook page, and that was just local artists that were able to support us with that type of thing, and people logging on and listening and donating. You know, we've had campaigns like Caveman Corona encouraging guys mostly and dogs apparently to grow their beards and their hair because they can't get to the groomers or to the barbers, and that type of thing. So for us, it's really been about keeping the community engaged as much as possible. So, you know, having, you know, kind of yourself invite me to do things like this, and doing our coffee and catch ups with the local community, sort of our Zoom calls on a Friday. It's all about those type of things, because we believe that when we come out of this, people are still want to come back and support, want to be able to participate in events and that sort of thing. And, you know, during this, I've already had a couple of businesses that said they want to participate in the golf day, that when Franklin's £50 challenge starts again, they're up for doing that. So it's not in the sense that people have forgotten, but for us, it's making sure that we're constantly connecting with people, and there is a quiz and there is bingo like we're doing tonight and all those types of things, so that people have still got us in our mind and we're still connected with people. And like Laura was saying, with volunteers and things like that, our volunteers are in that older, most of them vulnerable category. It's just ringing round and checking they're okay, because for them, coming to volunteer with us is a lifeline for them. And it's exceptionally important that we're still checking in, you know, with them as well. So, and on aside from that, we've had so many businesses that we've been so lucky that have supported us in terms of donations and things. So places like you know, Morrison's, Tesco's, TK Maxx, all those sorts of things that have been ringing up saying, okay, like with TK Maxx, we've had to shut, but we've got X amount of Easter eggs, can you make use of them? Can you give them to patients and their families and that sort of thing? So I mean, the business community has been so supportive, so it's just a balance of making sure that we're connecting with everybody and they're connecting with us, so that when all this is over, I know that I've already got quite a few appointments that people want to have with me about how they can go forward and support the charity after this is over. So for me, it's been all about connections, really, especially with businesses in the local area. So that's been really, really important.
And the future planning side of it's important. I mean, I unfortunately can't join your challenge around the beard, because I don't think I could ever get to as lustrous a beard as Bill. As much as
Bill's is great.
And you forgot one event. You forgot one event that you're hoping still takes place in November, Nina.
Oh, Strictly, sorry. I know, Connor's part of that. I'm ever so sorry, Connor, I forgot about that. Well, I didn't forget about it, but November seems like such a long time away. But yeah, so our Strictly Come Dancing event that happens at the Derngate, we're lucky enough to have been one of the beneficiaries for that again this year. And it's their 10th year, I believe, as well, that they've been running that. So Step by Step are essentially the hosts. And I think they're hoping that it's going to be bigger and better than ever before, really. So yeah, Connor's taking part.
Yeah, I'm going to be so gutted if that doesn't happen. I'm going to be. I'm so set on learning how to do the cha-cha. So yeah, I'll be really disappointed if that doesn't happen. But no, and that's and that leads us on to Jamie. So Jamie, very similar scenario, I'd imagine, to Cynthia Spencer. Is a lot of that ring true to the experience you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the clinical side, we've had to obviously make some difficult decisions. Had to put restrictions on like numbers of visitors per day. The wellbeing centre has had to close. So a lot of our services that we normally run, so on the wellbeing side and the Willen at Home side, are going out when they can. But when we can do video and phone call, that's what we tend to do. So just having to adapt to the situation, really. We don't have a waiting area anymore, so people will wait outside of the hospice to see their loved ones. But then also similar to Nina, in that the way the community has responded to this situation, the way that we're dealing with it has been really, really positive.
Yeah. So
a couple of weekends ago, we did our 48-hour relay, which had over 90 runners taking part. So we did it in partnership with Energy Fitness. Had over 90 runners, had runners from Thailand and Australia, all passing on a virtual baton, which is great. And that raised over £13,000 for us, which is amazing.
Wow.
We had a virtual bake-off competition, which raised over 1,500.
Yeah.
And just the little things like the gifting in kind sort of side of it. So obviously a lot of, I think, hospices, hospitals have had the same sort of mirroring issues. So things around like PPE, hand sanitizer. So as soon as we've made scrubs as well, as soon as we've made requests for things like that, we've had businesses and supporters coming to us sort of straight away, being able to help us with things like that, which has been really refreshing. So yeah.
I mean, in terms of, and this applies, Bill. Unfortunately, this is my first time coming across the good work that you guys do. But certainly in terms of Age UK Willen and Cynthia Spencer, there's such great community engagement across all three of those organisations generally, isn't there? And it's nice to see stuff like that continue. I mean, we look at, you know, the obvious examples of the big night in Nev Dern and Captain Tom Moore, which is fantastic. And then I looked at some local examples as well. So some of you might have seen Chris Hawkins, who did the 3 days of 12 hours of cycling, who ended up, I think his original target was £500, and he ended up doing like 4,500. Like there's such an appetite out there from people, even though people are scared and concerned about their own well-being. There is such an appetite for people to reach out and help others at the minute, isn't there? Which I think is really nice to see still. I suppose my question to all of you, and we'll go backward this time and start with Jamie, is what are you doing at the minute that people that might see this video, or businesses, how can they support you? What events have you got planned, and how can people help you carry on the good work you're doing? So Jamie, if you want to start.
Yeah, so obviously, like a lot of charities, our whole events calendar for the summer has been postponed. So we've had to think on our feet. We had to come up with a load of virtual fundraisers, some of which I've already spoken about. So we've got our midweek quiz, which is taking place on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on our Facebook page. We're also planning on doing a dog show, TBC. We're also encouraging businesses to sort of put on their own virtual fundraisers. So I've already had, off the back of the bake-off and the relay, I've already had some supporters sort of email across and say, oh, we'd love to do our own bake-off, or we're planning to do our own relay, which is really refreshing. So it's just a case of how we can support that and sort of promote the good work that they're doing to support us. Energy Fitness, who I mentioned earlier, who helped us with the relay, offering virtual gym membership. So it's £1 per colleague per month, and so they'll have access to interactive classes, sort of talks on experts around things like running technique and things like that. And then 30% of that pound comes to Willen Hospice, which is amazing. Obviously, we've had all of our shops close, so we've had to focus a lot more on eBay and online sales. So if businesses can donate items to us that we can sell on eBay, or you can sell items yourself and then donate a percentage to the hospice, that would be great. PPE, I've already spoken about, really. So at the moment, I think it's mainly around gloves and face masks are the things that are in need at the moment. And then we're starting our business club networking events again, obviously going virtual with those. So those are a free event if people want to come and we're doing that on the last Tuesday of every month.
Perfect. Brilliant. Nina, how can people help Cynthia Spencer Hospice?
I know, it just looks like I was trying to make a note on my little notepad here, because I was like, there's going to be something that I forget to mention. But no, similar to Jamie as well, in terms of, like I was just saying about the local community, I just wanted to add as well that Warner's Gin has been a massive support as well. They've donated some sort of hand sanitizer and bits and bobs. Tom came over and met with me, so that was really lovely of them. So yeah, I mean, we have got a variety of different things the same. So our colour run that was meant to happen in May has now been moved to October at the moment. And like I was saying, we've got a lot of virtual events, so like the lockdown sessions, lockdown live, and those types of things, they're continuing. And like I say, people could just log on and it's free entertainment for them. But if they want to make a donation, they're able to. And that's why we were so, lucky that it raised over £1,000 at the weekend. And we've got the coffee and catch-ups on a Friday, like I mentioned, quizzes. And then with regards to other virtual things as well, we've got our trip to Tokyo. So that was a virtual challenge that was meant to take place obviously alongside the Olympics, where you go out, you run, you walk, you swim, and then you log on and you track your miles essentially. And we are still running it, even though the Olympics is being moved, and we're sort of going to update it and move it to next year as well, hopefully. But we've had quite a lot of requests from companies that they want people and want their staff to still be able to sort of interact with something while they're in lockdown. And obviously that's a great idea, because you can simply go out, track it on your phone, track it on your watch or whatever, and log on and, you know, track your miles. Cycle for Cynthia is also still, fingers crossed, going ahead in September, which is one of our biggest events of the year. So that's all live and you can sign up to do that now. So yeah, we're keeping our fingers crossed for that one. Like I mentioned, we've got golf in October, and Franklin's £50 challenge is going to happen in the autumn. Obviously we've got Strictly as well. I'm so sorry I forgot that, Connor. I know, I'm just discussing himself, I forgot it really. But yeah, that will be at the end of the year. And I think the thing is, if that hopefully does go ahead, that will be such a lovely event to sort of end the year with as well, because I think that will get a lot of people backing that and supporting it. And again, like Jamie was saying as well, eBay for us is a massive thing. We've got our huge retail unit over at Moulton Park. The guys are kind of still in and out there at the moment in terms of packing things as they get sold on eBay, but essentially we're not able to take any sort of fresh donations at the moment. So yes, obviously go on and support the eBay site. That's absolutely brilliant. And we've got a section on the website of how you can help from home, and it's got a lot of updates about the challenges and eBay and that type of thing. But when we come out of this, just to give it a bit of a plug now as well, I'm sure Jamie's the same, donations, when people have been having a clear out because they've literally got nothing else to do while they're in their houses, and all the bags that people are collecting and putting in their cupboards, we want them off of you when we come out of lockdown, so that all of our shops and everything get stocked up again. So yeah, I mean, there's lots going on, but you know, in the sense it's all a little bit TBC at the moment, but there's a lot of virtual things that you can get involved with, and there is a lot of exciting things coming up. And like I say, businesses are still wanting to support it, which is just such a massive thing for us, and I'm really thankful for it. So
brilliant, fantastic. Bill, how can we support your hard work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, ours are direct, really. I mean, if the project 1615, Blank Canvas Project 1615, we have an Amazon wish list on the Facebook page. For us, it's a lot of direct. It's direct donation of things like, right now, it's things like sleeping bags, roll mats, tents, the physical stuff that we need. Equally, we're getting good donations of food. So anything that's kind of tin goods that we can cook or prepare with, getting hold of things in volume is difficult. It took me
of course
3 hours yesterday to source plastic cutlery, so loads of that you need. So lots of anything practical that anyone's got that they think they can donate. We always take money. There's donation button on there, but not being an established professional charity, if that's the right term, we don't have the same running costs. So what we really need is direct donations of goods, goods, food stuff, or physical things that are going to be needed really urgently. Yeah, potentially there's going to be. I know Outreach are working really hard to house a lot of people, but thinking ahead of when this is over, there's going to be there's 95 homeless and rough sleepers currently in hotels. There's, I think, 18 night shelter places in Northampton when it opens up. So, and everything that people owned previously, like their tents, their sleeping bags, their roll mats, has all obviously gone and been cleared as part of the clear up. That's all going to need to happen again. So we're conscious of those two things. One is what we're going to need to give in terms of a survival kit for people when they come out of the hotels, and the other one is just what we need day to day to keep our heads above water.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. And Laura, so how can people support Age UK at the moment?
So
Northamptonshire. AGK
yes.
Northamptonshire.
Oh my God,
Sorry.
Connor,
I'm
come
always the one that
on.
corrects you on that, aren't I?
So Connor, you make a very good point. It's almost like you did that for, to let me segue into this. But AGK Northamptonshire is a locally registered and funded charity. So I think that's the common misconception, is that because AGK is a national brand, there's an assumption that we get lots of funding from London or the government or somewhere, where we don't actually. Every single AGK across the UK is an independently registered and funded charity. Now we get sort of sources of income from things like NHS contracts, which obviously we still have, but a lot of our income comes from our shops, which are obviously closed at the moment, and our paid for services, things like domestic care, handy person, gardening service, toenail clipping, all of that stuff, which we can't do at the moment. So our income is completely slashed throughout this pandemic, and the services that we're offering are completely free to all of the clients, obviously. So we're taking a real hit on revenue and financial income, which is really difficult. And we're not alone. Every charity is in the same boat. But I think what I would say is, if anyone does have any spare change, then we have got a Just Giving page set up. All of the money raised during the pandemic is going to be used for pandemic work. So we at the moment we are taking donations of non-perishable food. So if anybody has any food that they can donate, toilet roll, cleaning products, and actually anything that can keep people occupied as well. So games, puzzles, crosswords, that kind of stuff as well. You can donate and safely drop off to the Venton Centre in Northampton, which is on just by St Giles Church. So you can contact the Venton Centre for a safe delivery. So you can leave it at the front door, kind of thing. The Just Giving page for any financial contributions. And genuinely, I mean, every charity is the same, but we genuinely really appreciate even just £1 or £2, because every £1 or £2 really mounts up for us. We, unlike the hospices, we don't really run our big events. We're a very small team actually in terms of our fundraising. There's one person who deals with the fundraising, so we don't generally have the capacity for huge events, but we do encourage others to run their own events for us, and to fundraise for us. So a lot of the events that people would be going to, the 5Ks, the 10Ks and all of that isn't happening. We would encourage people to still do something at home, which means that they can donate to us, because we really need every penny at the moment. Also volunteering. So I mentioned earlier that we are doing telephone befriending. So obviously that's huge right now. And we are always looking to recruit volunteers, and at the moment it will be for telephone befriending. There may be other voluntary roles that are coming up depending on how things change, which mean that people might be encouraged to do shopping on behalf of clients if they're able to. So there's lots coming up, but now is the time. If you want to volunteer, and you can do it from home, which is fantastic, then please do contact us. And also, finally, just something really simple that is really helpful for us. So I know, like, at the moment, it's really hard for a lot of people. People are out of work or they're furloughed, and times are hard financially. So if you can't sort of donate anything, just liking a post on Facebook or sharing some information on social media, all of that stuff, and that goes for all of the charities. I'd say, for please support everyone on social media, because every like then means that the algorithm shows it to somebody else. So at the very minimum, if you can just like all of the stuff that you see from the charities that you support, that would be fantastic.
And so my summarising points, I can't profess to have worked to any great level within charity, so I would not want to speak to out of turn, but I think this is just an example of a few of the fantastic charities we've got locally, and I'll put a bit on there encouraging anyone that knows of any other local causes to list them below. I'm not about to start politicising whether we should be donating to big charities or small charities, but I personally feel that donating to smaller local causes, you can see you can see a lot more easily the result of your donations or the time that you volunteer. So when you're able to, this isn't a tell people to donate situation, because I appreciate everyone that's watching this video might be in a different financial point in their life or have different concerns. But if you do find the time or you do have the money to donate, consider some of these fantastic causes when you're doing so. So thank you for taking us through that, guys. We do have the time. I always open it up for someone on the table to either point it at someone else or open to the table a question, and it doesn't have to be in relation to what we discussed today. It can be to do with coronavirus or business or something else. Just if anyone has a question, would you like to open it up to anyone?
I mean, I've got a question sort of for everyone.
Go for it.
Just around this situation and just how you're communicating with your supporters and how that's changed in this situation.
Perfect. Who wants to take the front step on that one? Laura, I know. Oh, Nina, go. You put your hand up. We'll go Nina, then Laura.
It's really hard. It's like, how do you indicate to people that you want to talk?
Yeah.
Like being back at school. Yeah, I think some of the things that we've been doing, I know Connor's jumped on the call, like my coffee and catch up for my corporate on a Friday. I just think that that's been really, really important from like a more of a corporate point of view. Obviously that's my role, in the sense that it's just really connecting people. And the first couple of weeks we did it, we had sort of 12 odd people on it, and then it's dropped off the last couple of weeks. But last week I did a quiz to kind of, you know, mix it up and that sort of thing. And I think, especially for a couple of people that I know in particular, that they're on their own because they've been classed as like the vulnerable category because of obviously certain health problems and things like that, while they're working from home, that's a real lifeline sort of out to them. And a bit like this as well, it's, you know, discussing the sort of things, how they can get back involved again, what they can do. And another thing that we're looking at doing is like a pledge as well. So what you were saying about money and things like that, how people can help in the future, not right now. So I think communication in terms of, yes, if you are able to donate, please support us, because that's brilliant. But again, what you can do in the future, and that's the same with our community groups as well, in the sense that, yes, what can you do now, but what can you do in the future? And, you know, things like that 2.6 challenge that, you know, the marathon team have set up, because all our obviously marathon runners aren't running, our abseils and things like that, and our challenges aren't happening. So again, it's encouraging people what they can do in the future. And I think that's sort of over the next couple of weeks, the type of communication that we're going to go with, in the sense that, yes, we have had the quizzes and the bingo and the lockdown live lounges and all that sort of thing. But now, obviously, with the announcements from Boris and that, where things are beginning to look a bit more positive, how we can communicate about coming out the other side and being a bit more positive and upbeat about it, maybe, as things change. So my coffee and catch up, I feel, for me, is one of the best things that I've done for my corporate side. But I don't know, do you deal with community, Jamie, as well?
We've got a community team that does it. Yeah, that was just really interesting around the messaging, really. I think it was quite tricky when this lockdown started. It was quite hard. I found it quite difficult to get the messaging right.
Yeah.
I think you sort of have this sort of doom and gloom that, you know, maybe businesses, you know, they've got a lot else on with this situation. They've got a lot of staff maybe that have been furloughed. But then actually, once you start approaching them and talking to them about what you're doing in the here and now, and you actually, it was really nice to get the positive response that we did get, because I think actually when I thought about it and I looked at the response that we got, it was actually, you know, for a lot of these businesses and individuals, this is exactly when they actually want to be supporting the charity, because it's when they need it the most. So
yeah, and
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I would say.
Go on, Bill, sorry.
Yeah, I would say from our point of view, maybe because of the nature of what we do, but the direct appeals with something at the end of it that's practical have been really successful for us. So, you know, if I'm posting things on Facebook, that yesterday I posted out about tents and just talked a little bit about what they're needed for and the type of tent. And I had, by the end of the day, I had 60 were ordered from Amazon Prime to be delivered. So what I've been finding all right through this, the more it's evolved, and this isn't my job, it has been communicating directly with, first of all, sharing the story of what's going on, in terms of this is how things are evolving and rolling out, and sharing some of what we've been learning about people in or rough sleepers in Northampton, and then sharing with that very simple stuff. So lots of things like if we put a dinner out and there's a picture, if you put a donate button on it, we get the cost of that. If you're asking for, if I ask for tents, they come. If I ask for jogging bottoms, whatever it is, I think people really want to help directly at this time. They want to help other people if they can directly. They just want a way to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, completely understood. And then Laura, how have you done the communication part?
Yeah, so do you know what? Interestingly, I feel like AGK Northamptonshire are not normally that great at shouting about what we're doing because we're so busy doing it. We're there with people on the front line every day, kind of just doing great work that we don't really think about telling other people. But actually what we've learned from, this whole experience is that people really want to know. Most of my time now is spent sort of writing press releases and gathering content for social media about what we're doing and celebrating the businesses that are donating to us and all that kind of stuff. And what we've learned is that actually people are really interested, and especially the local media at the moment, they are desperate for good news stories, because otherwise all they have to talk about is a horrendous pandemic, and what they are doing is they're focusing their spotlight much more on the good work that charities are doing, which is fantastic. And I really hope that balance continues, and that after all this is over, that people are still interested in the good news stories. We're really seeking out at the moment anything that gives us any form of hope and happiness, which is quite against us, our human nature. Normally we're looking for things that are kind of warnings to us, or how do we keep safe, and we tend to then sort of focus on the negative. But I'm really hoping that people do still keep engaging with charities and don't just forget them when this is all over and it's not in front of your face. All of us on the call, we do this all year round. We're there changing lives and helping people when they need us the most. And I would appeal to, I guess, the business community who would be watching this, just to don't forget this when you're back into, making money and doing deals. We're still here, and, without the charity sector, the whole of the UK would be in a much different position right now. So I think it's a really good time to be grateful and be thankful, and to continue to support the charities after this is all over.
And don't you think, Laura, it's the whole sort of being kind to each other, where people might have not supported or even spoke to their neighbour before? Like, some people are saying they haven't spoke to their neighbours in 15 years or whatever, and they're now getting them shopping because they're elderly and they're vulnerable and all this, that and the other. And I think that whole mindset, like you're saying, can that stretch beyond this and to a wider scale, and again back to us? And I know so many people do it already, but I think it's making people think more about what is important in life, and maybe those things that don't need to come back after the pandemic's over.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about this is it's given us permission to talk to our neighbours, and it's given us permission to care about each other. I think it's something that before we'd lost, and we'd become very insular and worrying about our family and our lives and just kind of looking inwards, whereas now we're forced to look outwards. And I've done it myself. I didn't know my neighbours for many years, and a few years ago I set up a street party, and it's changed the dynamic of the neighbourhood that I'm living in, to a point where if I was to ever move, I would make sure that I knew my neighbours, because it's so important. And I know it's important to other people as well. It's not just about the older people who need that shopping doing. It's the family with the young kids who want to know who their neighbours are and wave at them in the street. It's stuff like that is so important, and I can't believe we lost it, but I'm glad we're regaining it.
That's a conversation that's been had across the board, really, isn't it? All the positive stuff we see around community support, that positive feeling we get. And you mentioned it, Laura, that at the moment I think you can get sensory overload if you read the news too much. If you see one minute you'll see an article that says we're out of lockdown in 2 weeks, and then the next one you'll see we're in lockdown till 2025, and it's just, what do I do with all of this information? So those positive stories are massive, and the nice stuff that we see at the moment, as I say, I live alone. I know Nina's in a similar boat, and but you don't feel as alone when you've got so many people around you that we see in the social media world and through the technology, and there's a real community spirit. And I just think it would be a huge shame, as you've said, if after this we went like that and just went, right, that's done now, back to how we were previously. I think that would be a real shame. But I hope
people do get busy though. I think the biggest thing for me is, I'm looking at what I'm doing and talking to people about it and saying the one thing I've never had is the time to do the things that I needed to do some direct action. In my normal working life, I would never be able to do it. I just wouldn't have the time to do this, to do meals 7 days a week and stuff like that. So I think what we've got back at the moment is time to do things and focus on what's important.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing that's really at risk when we come out of this. It's time that becomes not available. So which bits do you grasp onto, and which bit, and what are lifeboats we're hanging on to at the moment, because there's a crisis going on.
I think you're right, Bill, but also it's about making time and kind of changing priorities. So it will go back to normal, and people have their full-time jobs, and they're ferrying their kids left, right and centre, and all that kind, the pressure of life will return. But it's I'd like to think people might think about the time that they wasted, for example, scrolling on their phone. They might then donate an hour of their time to volunteer for a local charity, or something like that, where, nobody can do 7 days a week of direct action like you're doing right now. But I think it's hopefully...
I find it, I think of it as a real privilege right now, actually. And it's a world that I knew nothing about, really. I just volunteered Sundays, did some breakfast on the market, did bits and pieces like you do, and all the other complications has gone with it. But from when the soup kitchen started closing to having to deal with the services over things like methadone scripts and stuff like that, it's just been a real... I've worked in HR and recruiting for 38 years, and I've learned more about people in kind of 6 weeks. So I think it's a real privilege right now to have this opportunity to do it, and I hope we can hang on to some of it.
I think it's just about those little things that you can sort of carry over once we're out of this situation. And so I know we mentioned earlier about, even if it's just once a day, you just retweet or repost something that a charity's put out, or I think a lot with the PPE requests we put recently, or things for scrubs or hand sanitizer. It's not, if you can't do it, it's maybe just tagging a friend or someone that could. Just the little bits like that take up sort of less than a minute of your day. I think it's just those little things that are going to be really easily transferable when we're out of this.
No, I agree, and I think there's some lovely points there to round it up on. I think for me personally, Bill, I think the work you do is amazing from what you've told us today. And I think, as you've said, it being a privilege getting to do that over recent weeks, I think it's an amazing thing to do, because someone has to do it at the end of the day, as you said, and I think that's fantastic. Laura, I already thought the stuff that Age UK Northamptonshire did was brilliant, but especially now I've had a taste of a little bit of what it can be like to live on your Todd for a while. I think that's such important work. And then Willen and Cynthia Spencer, through the networking I've done over the last couple of years, I already knew the fantastic work you do for the people that are at that stage of life. So no, I think everyone, I thank you all for coming on it. And as I say, what I'll get you to do after this, if it's okay, is just drop a comment on the post that I do, and a call to action. You can put links in there if you want to do so as well. That's fine. On a positive note, before we finish, I always like to do a little tiebreaker style question to everyone. The prize for the winner is an assured high five for me when this is all over, be that at a networking event, or I can meet you elsewhere to give the high five. Today's question is, and it's one of my favourite ones I've done so far, the Spanish Eurovision entry in 1986 entitled La 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 contained how many La's? I'll let you think of that one for a second. The Spanish
Connor,
Eurovision
I was
entry.
3. Come on, what are you on about? Like, how am I supposed to know this?
That's part of the fun of it. Some of the answers will just be brilliant. So the Spanish Eurovision entry in 1986 entitled La 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 contained how many La's? Bill almost looks confident on this, so I'm gonna go to Bill first.
It's 108.
108, you reckon? Okay.
108.
Okay. We'll go to Nina.
I'm going to go for 114.
114. Okay. Jamie.
I had written down 130.
130. Okay, Laura.
Do you know what? I'm going to say 0 because I reckon it's a trick question.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I'm totally wrong, but
The answer was in fact 138. So Jamie, you have won there. So I'm sure at a Will and Hospice business event, I will give you a high five. I'm refusing to do the virtual ones because I look silly when I do it to the camera. But you will get a proper high five in person at some point. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been fantastic to hear about all of the work you're doing. We at The Business Continues will be taking a break next week to plan out kind of what we're going to do over the next few weeks. But to anyone that's watched this far, a quick thank you for watching any of or all of these 36 episodes. And to those of you that have reached out with support and kind words, massively appreciated. And I'm looking forward to continuing this and beyond Corona. I quite enjoy doing this, and hopefully people enjoy watching. So if you have any topics you'd like to see, or you'd like to be part of the Business Continues virtual roundtable, please do comment below or drop me a message. Otherwise, thank you again to my guests and have a great week. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.